25 Years of Vampire the Masquerade presents My Two Deputies.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first session, or I should say prelude, regarding our new New York by Night game, which we're still kind of figuring out what title to come up with, but I think we'll kind of save that for the group itself. However, I think what we ended up doing was that we all decided we wanted to kind of give a little bit more of a character driven story in terms of how we've seen our previous vampire games, especially with our Sabat game, in which we had a lot of good feedback regarding our characters there, but we also wanted to ground them a little bit by giving you some idea of what these characters are like. So tonight's story is actually going to be Brennan's character. Brennan, would you be able to kind of introduce us regarding who your character is and such?
Yeah, my character's name is Bernardino Kilbach, or Dino for short. He was a child of Mike Kala, the previous prince of New York City. Or not even the previous one, but the one from like the 20s to the 90s. She was known for having a lot of kids, but we'll save all those details for the story. Um, but he was embraced in 98, like 1 month short of being a year into his embrace is when Maikala was killed, and he was left with some of his other brood mates to kind of figure it out in the post sire world they found themselves in. But what he did in life beforehand was he started out as a handyman with his dad. They ran a restoration company, right? Worked with contractors, worked with people who owned buildings or houses and had fire damage, flooding damage, etc. All that stuff, and from that, moved into things like fixing up other problems, mold, common thing with flooding. And, after that, they moved into forensic cleaning. It's actually pretty, kind of a lateral movement with that. And there's not a lot of people in there. Getting into that, they figured out why. That is a huge emotional toll to put on people when you are consistently meeting with people who have lost loved ones within most of the time, a couple of days. Um, so high burnout there, but he and his crew hung it in there, and that's been so useful, at least that he's working with the sheriff now, 23, 24 years after Embrace.
About. And so, that being the case, this will actually lead us into the beginning of our story, or at least an insight as to Dino. Tonight's scene, or at least our prelude, is going to actually begin 3 months prior to the date that we had set, which was in September. So we're probably taking a look closer towards June of sorts, right? The streets are still
Mm-hmm.
kind of warm. They're starting to warm up, especially considering that a lot of traffic is starting to come back into the city, even though we know that certain cases of COVID are kind of still around. New York kind of doesn't ever stop, regardless of what happens. There are a lot of things that create turmoil out on the streets, especially people just starting to reacclimate themselves to being within society. And though we have a lot of restraints, as we see on the streets, and that which is Times Square, along with other parts that are kind of driven by tourism, we also are well aware that, well, at night as well as during the day, the streets may or may not be safe. And considering this is the world of darkness, we only amplify what is going on in real time. So for you, Brennan, or I should say Dino, this evening is just previously minted. You have just been told and or invited to become a deputy under your friend, or I should say the sheriff, John Rivera's case, in which you've once again just had the opportunity to kind of live it up. It's been about maybe 2, 3 days since the announcement was kind of made regarding it. Even more shocking is the fact that you're still kind of amazed about it in general. There's been a lot of talk regarding the fact that the previous sheriff, whose name is Kadir Asmai, has taken the step back, and most people are trying to wonder why. He's kind of a little thin-lipped regarding splitting the information, and he hasn't shared it with anyone. Although you're pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure he has spoken with John. John has not made it a point to tell you yet. However, there is an important thing that our viewers may or may not know. Michaela, who happened to be your sire, also happens to be the sire of your broodmate, Helene Panhard, who happens to be the prince of the city. And therein lies the situation in terms of what we see this evening. You'll wake up in the evening in general. Um, Getting with your process, what do you normally do when you wake?
When Dino first wakes up, he has like little rituals. He doesn't like when he succumbs to day sleep, he doesn't like put on pajamas or anything, but he like gets up and does all the fake things a vampire does to fit in with humans during the day. He'll put on deodorant, some small cologne, not that he actually needs it because he doesn't sweat, right? His body doesn't produce any oil, but those things are things people would expect to smell or encounter. So he uses those. Brushes his hair, gets it into a certain way. He's very meticulous about how he dresses and how he appears, but he doesn't. He's not very like flashy. He's not very expensive. He wears like a suit most of the time, but it's not like Armani designer things. It's more like business wear. And after about
Understood.
30 to 45 minutes of doing that, checks his phone, checks, day to day things with the business. And unless there's anything from more pressing from his brood mate or any of the people he knows in his, the secret society known as the Camarilla, he'll probably go out trying to feed.
Right. So prior to that, it's a good thing you actually bring it up because for this evening, we'll see if you'd be able to rouse for me and let me know just how hungry you are.
All right. I would assume we'd start at one regardless, because I do not intend to
That would be
kill people
correct.
regularly. Let's see. 20th. There we go. That's what we need. Dice rouse. Unchanged. So at one.
Perfect. So that being the case, you don't wake up any hungrier for the wear, although you do see that there are messages that are left on your phone. It seems, or rather, there are a couple messages. One from your cousin John, who's
Mm-hmm.
inquiring when you'd be able to go ahead and meet up with him. He'd love to go ahead and have food with you. It's been some time. You're very well aware that you don't see John often. Most of the time, you do have like phone interviews with him. Um, but every now and then you pay him some heat and you do meet up with him. You try making sure that your meetups are kind of touch and go, just because you're aware that while he aged and you go through certain lengths to make sure that he doesn't know just how old you are, considering the time that has passed. Um, you do have that laying there, but nestled between that, a couple of other business inquiries, you do end up seeing a message from the prince.
I will shoot John a quick message back saying my schedule's a little full right now tonight, but I'll get back with you when I can. I'll shoot him a day, a night that's not tonight, probably 3 nights from now, so we can get some like small dinner, so I can catch up with John, his family, all that pleasantry, and then I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb and look at what my sister has sent me.
Taking a look at the message, you will see what seems to be an address that's located up in the Bronx. As of this moment, it doesn't really give you too much particulars because you haven't punched in the address just yet. But you do notice that the address is well in the Bronx itself, and a message that mentions you are to meet with a gentleman by the name of Ken Porter.
Ken
You'll know
Porter.
how to find him, right? And come dressed for work.
Oh well. Um. Okay. Um. I'll send her a message back right away, and I'll still have those clothes that I described me having, but I also bring, my work clothes, which typically include, those plastic covers for shoes, the white jumpsuit that zips up, the, plastic glasses, and I will get in the work van.
You'll proceed in the work van itself. Any preparations prior to you getting to this establishment, or I should say, the address that's given to you?
Um, just making sure that this is like work equipment, all that stuff is set up, and I will drive around the place like twice just to see what kind of area this is in New York City. Uh, Dino's been here his whole life. Brendan's been there once for like 5 days.
The place in the Bronx isn't so much. Most of the street is actually used because it's very lively, very heavily Latino based, and as well you have all the nice landmarks that do actually surround it as well. You have LaGuardia to the south. You have a couple of baseball stadiums running around that have not existed, but specifically as you come to it, there are things within the Bronx that most people who are usually tied to the streets feel very comfortable with. It's a way of life. It's a lot of movement that's going around. There's a lot of pride in it. A lot of train riding as well that is previously known. However, you actually visiting the location itself, you come across the following, which would be, bear with me a moment.
For sure. It's the fancy thing about doing this recorded and not live. I can just cut all this shit out.
And what you'll come across is what seems to be a corded off scene. It seems like there had been an accident of sorts, or at least from a distance, it looks like an accident. There happens to be about 2 units of vehicles that are currently standing by. There is people traffic, making sure that people don't go in here. From the base look of it, considering your skills, it's very easy for you to tell that at least this happened maybe a couple of hours before dusk had actually hit.
Mm.
Most of what may or may not have been the occupants of the vehicles are no longer there. However, what you do end up seeing seems to be at least a slight bloody mess. It's kind of hard to tell where the mess came from, but you don't see anything, at least in the windshield, that would kind of describe there being some violence, at least offhand.
Okay, so this just looks like an unfortunate situation. So cops are still here. I'm assuming the tape is actually still there.
That would be correct.
Okay. Um, I will. Well, Dino will get out after parking the car somewhat nearby. Just kind of like look around the place from the other side of the uh tape, and he'll look at his phone to make sure he has that guy's name correct. What was that name again, DJ?
Mm-hmm. That name is Mr. Ken Porter.
Ken Porter. Um, I'll just start looking for a Ken Porter. My assumption is is like an
Do-
owner of the car, or like what's right in front of this car wreck.
so here's a couple of things to kind of just, or I should say, kind of prep our listeners to. If you were to describe your van vehicle, what's your normal approach whenever you do approach a scene um, that's been assigned to you?
Um, the typical approach is one that's well, how he acts in his normal business, as the whole point of him coming over here, at least in my mind, is to uh, clean up something, right? But that's what his job is. So acting like it's a normal thing, that this is a paid job like his normal ones, that's like blending in with the crowd, right? His own little masquerade that's just a little bit easier to play.
In the name of your business?
It is simply Killbox Cleaning. It's a big umbrella for the other, like, the
Interesting.
mold stuff, restoration stuff, but this one is this is the biohazard remediation portion, as it's called.
Wonderful. And so what will end up happening is you'll see the cops kind of take a quick look at you as you start parking your van a little bit closer. They see that it definitely does say like Killbox Cleaning on the side of it, identifying the vehicle as being official business use with the commercial
Hmm.
plates and such. Um, you'll have one of the officers come up. This gentleman is probably like in his early 30s. He has a nice scruffy beard. Seems like he's kind of balding with slight curly hair on the side. He definitely looks like Latino to a certain degree. He's like, hey, buddy, hold on a second. Um, what are you doing here?
I got a call that something needed to be cleaned up. Well, obviously this needed to be cleaned up. Looks like they were a little uh, too fast on the trigger, though, as you've not released the scene. Is it expected to be like just a couple of more hours?
No, no, it seems like we might be ready here. Hey, who are you? What were the orders under?
Um, hmm. Give me 1 second to double check my sheet here, DJ. I'll um, I'll pull up my phone, go over stuff like I'm looking up the name, right? Um, and I will. Let me see. I'm not going to give him the name Ken Porter. Is he with other people or did he approach me? This setting is important.
Sure. So the setting currently is that you have maybe about two more cops who are currently having their hands in their pockets, just trying to keep things at bay. A couple of them have at least a coffee in their hand. You don't see too many other people around, but you do see that there are a couple of obviously reporters or people that are kind of interested in it. You see a couple of guys in suits, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
a better term, or at least what you would kind of consider detective-ish clothing, right? They've done their bit of their jeans and not wearing their typical uniforms of sorts.
Okay, so this doesn't look like it would be just a car accident. That's fine. Um, let's see. I'll just make up a name as I'm going through this. I'll actually say going through this paperwork. I'll say the name of some client from earlier in the day. Just like just play it off, right? Trying to get him to buy the name, and if he doesn't, like I'll just say, "Oh no, it's still a wrong paperwork or something. Let me get that fixed." Does that make sense?
All right. Let's try this
Trying to
then. Give
fast
me
talk him a little
your
bit.
Let's
Sorry?
try your wits and subterfuge, sir, if you would.
Wits
Difficulty will be
subterfuge.
3.
Yes. We can do that. Yeah. We can try it. Let's see. Dice roll. Yeah, one short.
One short. Would you like to succeed at cost, or would you like to give it a willpower and see if you could probably get away with this?
I'd rather use the willpower.
All right.
Select dice
Will it?
to re. Oh, that's right, because you can't re-roll hunger. Did it do it?
No, I didn't, I believe. You'd have
Re-rolled
to
two
try it
dice.
again.
The 5 rolled a 2, and the 3 rolled a 3 again. Yeah, it is right there.
Wow. Okay.
Uh,
You'll have him kind of take a look at that. He's like, well, a second. I don't. Hold on. And he'll look towards his walkie that's like belted onto his thing. He's like, hey, we have a killbot cleaning here. Did anyone place an order for it? And he'll take a step back for a second as he waits. Who? Killbot cleaning? No, I don't think. Hold on a second. Let me take a look. Cop kind of takes a step back just once. He's like, hold on a second, right there, and he'll kind of put his hand out just to create the space in between. Um,
mm-hmm.
nope, we haven't gotten anything for them. And he'll take a look back over. Sorry, bud. This isn't your scene. I don't know who gave you the instructions there.
It's probably just one of those mix up. Someone jumped the gun. Is this this isn't a private property? This happened on the city street, so someone from the city put in the call. Maybe they got it from the dispatcher and just thought the scene was cleaned early. Like you said, it was almost over. Let me make a call back to that number and see what's going on.
Yeah. Go ahead. Just take a step to the side. I'm sure you understand the reason why.
Mm-hmm. And I'll pull up the phone and pull out some paperwork and just well get back in the car, playing the phone call, and
All right, you're back in the vehicle.
right. So they approached me. There's still that Ken Porter, and I would know how to find him. Is there some other way that I would know? Does that name sound familiar to me at all? Now that I've heard it a couple of
The
times.
name actually doesn't. It doesn't sound familiar to you, although taking a quick look over, it doesn't take too long before you actually see a couple people staring in directions, especially the people in suits, or I should say, the people that are kind of dressed casually, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
One of them just kind of seems like this guy who's in his early 40s, kind of thinning hair as it is, blonde, sandy hair, and a mustache, and he just gives the people a hands up for a second before he actually starts approaching your vehicle. It seems like he's got purpose as he heads over. Prior to doing so, he will approach the cop that was just talking to you right now, and it seems like the cop's just shrugging, and there's a lot of body language. that kind of gives you the impression that they're kind of discerning your ability to be around this area.
Oh, and he's coming up
Following
to like
that,
knock on.
they start.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, he seems to walk away from the cop and start heading your way.
I will put up the phone and roll down the window as he approaches.
Hey, you from Killblock?
Yeah, that's me.
What's your name, buddy?
I'll reach out a. Well, I get the sense he's not in a handshaking mood, but name's Dino. I'm the night crew tonight.
Dino. He'll he'll pull out a notepad as if he's writing something. But you'll see him take out a pen that he hasn't even clicked the top of, and he'll just start kind of seeming like he's writing down. As he's kind of taking a look down, he just casually speaks to you. He says, "You know, you could have just asked for me, right?" And he'll flip a page.
Wanted to play it a little quieter, but yeah, I will note that if there is a next time.
Right. There may or may not be one. Listen, I'm gonna have to talk this over with Martinez over there. He may or may not have thought some things up, considering that we normally get work here. Next time, don't worry about it. They say talk to Ken, talk to Ken. Now, the only thing I give a shit about right now is that there's something inside that vehicle as you're cleaning up you're gonna take, and you're gonna hand it over to a young lady um, at an address I'm about to go ahead and give you. No questions asked. Just do what you got to do and clean up. We understood?
You got it.
All right. It's gonna be a small ledger. Don't worry about it. The guy that was in there is pretty torn up. He ain't coming back. He ain't standing back up either. Not that you'd care to know, but it wasn't exactly quite a hit and run, so to speak. Just know that whatever you do end up finding in there, especially in the form of ledger, you ain't to open shit. Not even take a fucking look at it. Just grab it, pick it up, and hand it on over.
Okay.
Perfect. I'm gonna
And
let this guy
the
know that you're
recipient.
good and you're able to walk in. The recipient, he'll actually flip the page now, and this time he'll hear the click of his pen as he starts writing a name down, and he'll grab the address and he'll kind of just pull it out, and he will rip the paper apart, and he'll take a look, and as he leans in, he'll hand you the piece of paper and he'll speak loudly. And then what you're gonna want to end up doing is you're gonna have to report to these people and let them know you need to have this cited and notarized in a proper way, because the stuff that you did here, you got to do the right paperwork, buddy. Just have your people contact that while you start cleaning up. Sound good?
Yeah, I'll let the office know. This happens every so often. We'll get it sorted though.
Sounds good. Right, and he'll give you the nice, normal, like colloquial double tap on your van that makes that clanking sound, letting you know that things are good to go. And
Mm-hmm.
you start hearing him walk, like turn around, rather see him turn around and start heading back over towards Martinez. He goes like, "This fucking guy, he just." I told him exactly what he had to do. He got a little bit too big for his britches. No. We've used him before. It's just for whatever reason he didn't decide to put up his paperwork. He says it was the secretary or the people at the office, so it is what it is. And you see the conversation just kind of fade out before you're left to your own devices and the piece of paper in your hand.
Word. I will roll up the window. I'll move into the back to throw on that jumpsuit, and all the other cleaning stuff as I'll go up to the car.
Okay. Anything particular that you'd be doing, or rather, if you'd be able to describe to our listeners, what's your procedure typically like?
Procedure is there is like first thing is to put on like the suit like I was talking about. There's the coverings, right? And there's small like cleaning tools you'll use and solutions, but it's really going to depend on what kind of like mess it is here, right? There are certain safety equipment you have to wear because the only qualifications you need for this job is to pass an OSHA training over like bloodborne pathogens, and that's it. But you have to reflect that. So it's going to be going over, looking at the crime scene, what blood needs to be washed off from where, because there is a small pressure washer in the back with a cleaning solution like attachment that
Mm-hmm.
I'll just like spray down. There's one of those big like industrial brooms I'll use to like slosh the water over to the sewer entrance grate, and I'll actually do the job as that's part of this.
As you do part of the job, it doesn't take long before you're able to discover that particular, well, item. The item itself doesn't exactly happen to be inside of. It's much more in the glove compartment than anything else, along with like what you would anticipate there being in a glove compartment, such as like the vehicle registration, etc., etc. It just seems like no one has touched it just yet. You're not exactly sure why, but then again, it doesn't seem like there was any foul play here offhand. It just seems like the accident or what they were describing as an accident is there. Funny enough, though, the way that it was described versus what it actually is, you're kind of still, well, you don't question things, especially considering who's asking for what here, considering that someone is particularly looking for this information. But you do find a small ledger. The ledger itself is probably about the size of your palm. Within the palm itself, its thickness is closer towards about 2 inches or so, which is a little bit awkward. But it is bound by a very strong elastic on it, as if it was just barely holding itself together. It seems like it's definitely been actively used, would be one way of putting it. Almost like it was someone's favorite bookie ledger of sorts. Um, you're able to easily pocket it without any types of issues, as it seems like most of the cops are just waiting until the cleanup and towing truck comes along to pull out the rest. The
Okay.
only thing that does seem odd is the fact that they were able to milk it for a while, but then again, all things considering, there are some
Seems
pretty
they were
interesting
milking it
hands at
for
play
me
there.
to show up.
Exactly.
All right.
What would you do
Uh,
from there,
I'll
sir?
I'll take that. The whole cleaning process will probably take like an hour or more, depending on just how big of a mess this is. But he will actually do the job. Um, Again, part of the cover before heading back and into the car, undressing, and heading to the drop off. And I will look at that name that Ken wrote for me.
Interestingly enough, the name that he wrote just reads off simply Julia Stiles. And you're like, wait a second, like you mean like the actress? Yeah, it's spelled the exact same way. The address that's kind of given to you leads you off somewhere like towards the Wall Street district. But prior to that being the case, you end up having another two messages kind of pop up as you were kind of working. One of them is from John. He's like, "Oh shit, man, that sucks. Uh, wish you were out. I could really like listen to you speak. It's been some time anyway, but I get it. Work is work. Call me when you have the chance." The message right underneath seems to be from another person, one that you are aware of. Someone who also happens to be a member of your clan at that, whose name is Valentine. And Valentine asked you if you'd be able to meet him for a couple of drinks, um, with a smiley face. In times past, you would almost assume he'd kind of make a display of making sure the word drinks was probably either italicized or something very corny, and only because he'd like messing around with you. But nowadays, one cannot be too careful, and even so, than that, he's just being cheeky enough by sending you messages
Hmm.
instead of doing this the old fashioned way of sorts.
I'll shoot him back like, yeah, finishing up a job. I'll be there in like, I'll say 30 minutes after I think how long it'll take to drop off this letter at whatever address that is. Because that's in like Manhattan, right? And I was in the Bronx.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
You'll
So
have
I'll
another message kind of quickly pop up.
mm-hmm.
Go ahead, you were saying?
I was just gonna say like I'm not blowing him off, but got a work call that I got to finish up first. But after work drinks sound great.
Nice. You'll hear him say, "Don't make me wait too long. I'm almost getting bored of this place, but take your time." And that one he actually does italicize there.
Okay.
However, as you're starting to drive back, you will receive another message, and once again, it happens to be from your lovely dear sister. And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Need you to meet up with Ken again." And the weird part about it is, it hasn't been that long. In fact,
No.
you've literally just done the work, which took you the better half of like about an hour or so, And as we're starting to go through the evening and it's starting to reach about, oh, I'd say closer towards around 10:30, there's another request from her to meet up with Ken. This time the address is leading somewhere on the Upper West Side.
Well, so that's almost on the way, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll
No,
text back. I'll see him soon, and head over there. This time, going up to whatever officer is on the scene, say, "Hey, I'm here to speak with Ken."
interestingly enough, what's going to happen is that you're going to come to the following. This location actually happens to be a milestone of sorts. It's actually the Dakota apartment buildings, very well known for it being one of the pre-war buildings that has existed within New York and hasn't been quite changed in some time. Um, Back in 1980, around there, John Lennon actually used to live there before he was just shot outside of the building, tragically speaking.
Oh,
So there are some thoughts regarding that. However, as you start pulling up, there happens to be a couple of cop cars that also happen to be um, on the outside waiting. It seems like there is a body of sorts that is being pulled out as well into a stretcher. You have people calmly like watching on the outside, seeing what's kind of going on. Um, but once again, the scene is something that is not unfamiliar to you, considering the line of work that you do. You just happen to see it a lot fresher than most people would.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go up to the officer near the cordoned off area and say, "Hey, I'm Dino here to speak with Detective Porter."
You have the guy just kind of take a quick look at you a moment, and he's like, "Yeah, give me a second." He'll take a quick look. And he's like, "Porter," and almost as if he kind of pauses for a second, he walks on over to another gentleman. This time, the guy that comes back in your direction happens to be a guy who's probably in his late 50s, with a thick graying mustache and a full set of hair, and he walks over to you as you're like standing there. Like Killbach,
That's me.
yeah. Listen, and he'll kind of move you aside to have that private conversation. He's like, the apartment's going to be on the seventh floor. You'll know it. Gentleman's name happens to be Johansson. Don't worry about it too much. Poor sucker blew his head off.
Oh,
One thing's possible. Comb the room if you can. There should be something in that room that we're kind of looking for. I think you have a drift of what it is that you may or may not find. Once again,
mm-hmm.
and he'll flip over a page and he'll write down a name with an address. You want to go ahead and deliver it to this person. No questions asked. You get that, right?
I got it.
Perfect. He'll rip the paper off almost as if it's mechanical and he'll give you the name yet once again.
Okay, so I got a bigger inclination that Ken Porter is just like some name that triggers some dominate thing because this is not the same guy, right,
This is
DJ?
definitely not the same guy.
Okay, all
Exactly.
right. That's far more concerning. But that just tells me I really need to get this done. So yeah, I'll go up there to the place, to the apartment, and give it a comb over.
You'll walk up to the apartment in your rather your workwear, if such a thing could be said. People are kind of aghast, seeing as you start walking up, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that's true." No, did you hear the rumor? We don't know. And you'll see people kind of looking at you, and there's people that kind of have that impression on their faces if they want to ask you something, but they're not sure if you'd actually give them the answer. One person
Mm-hmm.
who happens to be a gentleman who was holding on to a small chihuahua just takes a look at you as he kind of cradles chihuahua in his hand. He's like, "Could you tell us anything about what happened upstairs? Should I be worried about this? Should we be worried about this?"
The only thing I can tell you is there's nothing to worry about. I'm not going to talk about the details as that being insensitive to the kin and well, the co-op of the building. There are other people that can give you answers. It's just not me.
It wasn't a murder, was it?
And
You'll hear
no,
someone
I
just
don't
yell
even
that
have
out.
all these details. I'm not someone that works with the cops. I just get called in for after the fact. Now, if you excuse me, y'all have a good
Oh
night.
Jesus.
Y'all are safe tonight.
You'll see that they have like these concerning faces amongst them as they look back and forth, going like, okay. And they will start to kind of head on back before you get onto the elevator itself. You'll take the elevator to the designated floor, which seems to be slightly empty. If it wasn't for the fact that maybe two heads kind of poke themselves out from their apartment doors, taking a quick look down the hall to see what has happened. Um, you'll start to head on over, unless there's anything you want to do to prepare and or do otherwise for.
No, no, there's nothing else I would need to prepare for. I don't believe.
All right. Upon entering the apartment, it's exactly as you would kind of imagine. One, it is definitely a place of means. This isn't a normal apartment in which, in New York could range anywhere between small single rooms to the rent being abnormally high for locations that would have less than about 80 square feet in general. This person had means, and it kind of seems once again that the word is had means. As you kind of walk through the kitchen itself, everything seems to be in place, almost meticulously so. It definitely seems like it was lived in because there are what seems to be items in the refrigerator, and the only way that you would know that being the case is because you'll see the small bags of Stop and Shop, as well as Wegmans and Trader Joe's, kind of lined up in different ways. It seems like this man was preparing to go ahead and throw his trash over in the chute, not too far from now, if only because of the way that those plastic bags were kind of wrapped up. He also has a tote bag of sorts. That lets you know that he was trying to be environmentally conscious, but unfortunately for him, such a thing may or may not work out at this moment in time, considering his current health status. But as you start walking by, the TV is still kind of running in the background. It seems like commercials are running, the medical ones that typically say side effects may include as it hums along. The chair that seems to have been one specifically used for him to smoke cigarettes for seems to be laying on its back. It seems like the impact of what may have happened is quite grim. The markings of where bullet casing had gone, the item itself, are still on the ground itself. Once again, this kind of seems a little bit out of protocol, and even more so than that, if you'd be able to, sir, roll me your intelligence, and I would probably say your investigation, if you would.
Okay. When I did come in here to survey the area, I would be using heightened senses as well. Just
Wonderful.
so that is
So we'll say
use,
that
and
you
that is
may
a
go ahead and
free use. Go ahead.
right. For this, then, I will reduce your difficulty down to two.
Okay, and you said wits investigation. Did I hear that
That would
right?
be correct.
Oh,
Yes.
lucky, lucky me. I do mean lucky. That is a very good roll. Hunger one, difficulty two. You said.
Yes.
What in the world? I'm gonna re-roll again. That's a lot of willpower, but that's ridiculous.
That is a lot of willpower. It seems that dice gods are not in your favor today. However, hopefully something will assist you there.
This could also go very bad. How many dice is it per
We're
willpower? Is
going to
it
find out.
three? Three you can
Up
re-roll,
to
or
three non-hunger dice. Yes.
three non-hunger dice. All right. And what in the world? No.
You'll be sitting there. You'll be kind of watching it, and there's a couple of things that kind of go through your head, right? There are certain convictions and distinctions that you have regarding your character. He
Mm-hmm.
is, for lack of a better term, though he deals with blood, very humane. The only thing that kind of throws you for a small loop, and it could be because you may or may not be distracted, is the fact that your nostrils do flare up a bit. There is blood that is on the ground, so to speak, although it is quickly drying up, and you could even tell where in certain cases it's been mixed with the scent of, well, the gunpowder and the bullets and the impact and that coppery scent. but it's in there. And what makes you kind of shudder just even slightly is that, considering your palate, this person and your senses being as high as they are, it does give you the impression that this person would have probably been a prime candidate for you, right? In terms of your feeding style.
Mm.
You're not exactly sure why, but what it does do is it distracts you. So much so that as you are taking a look around, you're not finding any. It's getting harder to kind of concentrate on the fact that you will have to do two things. One, perform your job function as it currently is because you are being quote unquote paid to perform the function itself. But secondly,
Uh-huh.
you're very well aware that you cannot find this item. You are too distracted to do so.
Fuck. Okay. All right. Okay.
Your phone will ring.
Um, who's calling?
It seems like it's Valentine.
I'll put him on speakerphone as I start, spraying down these blood spots, cleaning up, picking up the shell casings, getting out the wood glue and wood filler to patch up the bullet hole, and getting that to go away. He'll hear some clatter as I reset chairs and whatnot. Um, and yeah. Hey,
As you just
Valentine.
begin this process, he's like, Killback, what are you doing? You hear some chatter in the background. His voice is coming in rather quite clear, and considering your heightened senses, you could hear there's a clanking in the background. You hear what may or may not be a jukebox. He's
Mm-hmm.
definitely somewhere.
On the clock. This is where I am right now.
Surely on the clock. Are you telling me that the work is more important than I am?
Uh, you don't pay my bills, Valentine.
Touche, touche. I'll give you that much. Hey, listen, why don't you just shrug off work? Don't you have minions to go ahead and take care of that shit?
Oh, believe me, I wish I did. But night shift is my shift.
Right. Night shift is night shift too, but you know what I'm not doing? Fucking working. Or maybe I am, depends on how you take a look at it. Listen, all right. I'm gonna move from one location to another because I'm kind of slightly getting bored here. I do have a couple of people that I do have to meet up with, but let's say you finish up work um within the next 40 minutes or so. Are you familiar with Rudy's Bar and Grill is?
DJ, am I?
You are. Rudy's is awkward for Valentine to be around. It's very interesting considering his choice there. Rudy's actually happens to be right next to the Port Authority, where all the buses are coming in from all over to kind of rest up in New York City, or rather on the island of Manhattan, so get redistributed out. It is very close to Times Square as it currently is, and it's very famous because it has this gigantic pig in the front of the bar itself. What's cool about the bar, many have come to be and experience, is that they give out free hot dogs all night long. It is definitely a dive bar, outside of the usual norm for Valentine, you would think.
Rudy's. Yeah, I can meet there. Um, 40 should just about do it.
Should just about do it, or will do it.
DJ, how far away is it from me?
Considering where you currently are, it's about a 30 block stretch. You could probably get there, hopefully within about 10 or so. That's all depending on traffic, but at least you kind of have an idea of how to navigate through the streets. So it's not far off, but it's one of those things. The question
Uh,
is,
maybe
getting there
40.
might not be the issue. It's how much work you still have to put in because you still have to clean and you are
Uh huh.
thorough. They pay for your services being there. If you're just taking a look at the time that it would take for you to clean in general, considering the scene, you're looking at about an hour, maybe 2 hours and change. This would go by a little bit quicker if you had your crew with you, but at the same time, you haven't called for them
Mm-hmm.
unless you do. So now you're stuck with a time conundrum, if such a thing could be said.
I can't call the crew until I find this freaking thing. Look, Valentine, I'll 30 minutes. I'll call in the night crew. It's getting to be about time for the other shift to come in anyway. They can finish up here. Um, I gotta meet someone for a quick talk, and then I'll head on over to Rudy's and meet you there.
All right. Well, I anticipate hearing all about it anyway. Just try getting here at least before 11:30. This place gets a little rowdy, so to speak. Well, we'll talk about it when you get here in general. And he'll just hang up the phone.
All right. And DJ, I need to find this freaking thing, whatever the hell it is.
All right, sir. How would you like to go about doing so?
I'm not worried about moving blood. I will go around the room. Like you said, there was one chair that was moved over, that was fallen over.
Right.
Resetting
If I
that.
had to give you an idea, I would probably say from the way that the chair had fallen over, you could definitely tell that it was most likely a suicide. The bullet casing, the way that the chair fell backwards, the contents that have escaped this man's body where it once had laid are kind of
Mm-hmm.
sprayed in a specific direction.
And I have no idea what the thing would be.
Oh, you may have an idea considering that you've opened or received one ledger so far.
Oh, it's another letter. If I was a guy, I'll start looking where, like in drawers, in like maybe some cabinets, to where a small 2-inch letter might possibly be,
Or ledger, I should say. But let's do this then. Go
or
ahead and
ledger.
use your
Okay.
intel. That would be correct. So
Oh,
you'll have your. We'll do one final roll here, and this will kind of represent the amount of time it takes for you to find it. Let's go with your intelligence and investigation.
all right. Little bit less,
Your
but
your
that's
difficulty
expected.
will raise to 3 as you're trying to find purchase here.
All right. Believe heightened senses adds aspects to this. Is that V20 leaking in, or is that V5?
That might be, but it will. I'll allow it here. You may add the 1 in this case. Say for thematic purposes, it will help
Yes.
add to it.
Yes. That is indeed. All right. Thank you, sir. 801. And you said difficulty's 3? Not an
That would
easy
be
job.
correct.
Ah, finally.
Wonderful. As you're able to take a quick look, it's not even a quick look as much as it is. You're spending at least the first good 20 minutes doing so. It's not that you're tearing up the place, but now you have an idea of what it is that you're looking for. At first, you try all the normal convention stuff. Does this gentleman have books? Of course, they have books. Why wouldn't he have books? They're good talking pieces. He's even got a coffee table with a couple of art piece books in there that was meant for anyone that would probably sit. He's got a couple of books that are right next to his TV. He's got a couple of books that are currently listed there. There's a small annoyance as you're kind of going through this very quickly because you're clearly ignoring the cleaning portion of what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And instead, you're just looking for this damn book. It isn't until you start getting a little handsy with certain things as you head over to his bed and just start flipping it underneath to see whether or not there's anything under the mattress. But it's not until you actually get into his drawers and you pull them out one by one, noticing that at the bottom of his sock drawer, right as the friggin' thing is pulled out, you will then notice a bigger ledger in there. The ledger itself is probably about the size of an 8 by 11 notebook, which is bigger
Mm-hmm.
than the one that you're previously seeing before, except this one seems a little bit leather bound and it seems to be in more care than the previous one was.
All right. Well, I will pick it up. And oh, you said ledger on the first for the first thing, LEG. Is that
L E
right?
D G R, yes.
Okay,
That
yeah,
would be
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
The
Okay.
ledger.
I was thinking you were saying letter the whole time. I was like, what is this with letter? Okay.
That'd
No,
be a
now it makes
very
sense.
thick letter for.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? All right. So I'll take it. I'll stow it away and I will call for the relief crew to come in.
They'll speak to you on the phone. They'll let you know that they'll probably be there. And geez, they wish you would have told them a little bit sooner, about more 20 minutes. At this point, you're probably going to be cutting it a little short regarding the time with
Mm-hmm.
Valentine. But either he could wait or You could just abandon ship. Up to you.
I'm not abandoning ship for this. I will wait for them to come up. And I will head over to that Julia Styles drop. And then head over to Valentine.
Julia's on the far end of the other city. You're gonna go right past. If Valentine's gonna wait, you're pretty sure that with the trip and everything else, you're probably adding an additional 45 minutes to this entire thing.
Then he's got to wait. I'll shoot him a message. Um, with some excuse talking about more blood than I think I've ever seen, and none of it good. Painting
Okay,
up like it's a Michael Myers film set in here.
understood itself. You'll you'll definitely give him that impression, and all he'll reply with is whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
However, he'll then reply about 2 minutes later as you're waiting for your crew to come up. Tell me all about it later.
Yeah, I will.
You'll you'll pack up on your end as the crew starts to walk up. People kind of look at you and they're like, "Oh man, what happened here?"
Uh, we had a suicide earlier in the morning or earlier in the afternoon. Um, it's not pretty. Guy was well off, but there's some signs that I don't know. It doesn't look like he was well. Um, I've already left some of the like the wood glue, wood filler up there. The stains aren't too set in or old. Um, so they shouldn't be too hard. There's just a rug up there that might be troubling. You might gonna need the carpet cleaner for that and the pressure washer. We'll see.
One of your one of your employees just kind of has like a raised eyebrow, and she looks at you as she's kind of dressed up. She's like, "Isn't it a little bit too early for us to be here in the first place?"
Yeah, it seemed weird, but cops released the scene. Owner of the building called it in. Paperwork's all in line. Seems they're just getting
That's
faster on
really
it now.
weird. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. We'll take care about it. Where we everything you said paperwork and everything's taken care of. We just got to do our bit.
Yeah, just go in, lock up when you're out, drop the key off at the office. I'll get it back to the owner tomorrow. Fortunately, you guys don't even have to worry about interacting with the next of kin.
All right. Whatever you say, boss. All right. Take it easy. I guess let us know if you need anything. We'll call you when it's
Yeah,
done.
well, sure. Talk to you later,
Mm,
and I'll head
talk to
on
you
out.
later. And you head on out. Patching in the address as you start walking out, you'll see that there are more people that are kind of starting to build up. More like the community is just more interested in anything else. Before you had like streetwalkers that were kind of figuring out what was going on. Now that the ambulance is kind of gone, it's more people concerned about the safety of their apartments and what has currently happened. It is very high profile considering that it did happen at Dakota Apartments. There hasn't been an uproar like this, or at least in some time since John Lennon, or has there? You're not entirely sure, but considering the rapid pace at which everything's kind of being drawn up, it may or may not draw up suspicions. But you know what? That's not what you were kind of paid to do or asked to do in general.
Nope.
You'll get in your van and you'll start to head out. Any place in particular you want to stop by or do anything before heading to this location?
No, just trying to get to Styles.
All right. What end up happening is as you start heading over in the location itself, the address that's actually given isn't exactly in Wall Street itself. It's actually a little bit before then. The name of the location, once you start punching it in, points you to Hotel Hugo.
Hotel Hugo?
That would
Is
be
that a
correct.
well-known thing?
It is one of the locations that happens to have quite a view of the city, especially considering that it's more known for having a view of Jersey as well in certain degrees, depending on where it's pointing. It is high enough that you're able to see where it points to like Jersey City. One of the entrances from Jersey over into New York. But more importantly, taking a look southbound, outside of the awkwardness of that, which is Staten Island, as some New Yorkers take a look at it, but you are able to see One World Trade Center.
Mm. Well, that is nice. I will, of course, get out of the jumpsuit and all of that, look more presentable, with the more typical business wear, and I'll head on in.
You'll head on in, but the crazy part about it is like no one's ever told you what to do next from here. It didn't give you a
Mm-hmm.
floor. It didn't see anything for you.
They did not. I will go up to one of the reception because this is a hotel, right? Hotel Hugo, you said.
That would be correct.
I'll go up to the, I'll go up to reception like I'm about to check in. I'll get the um, desk workers' attention, and then I will use mesmerize to get them to ask to make them tell me where Julia Stiles is staying.
They will simply take a look at you and they're like, "Hey, thank you for coming and welcome to the Hugo Hotel. How may I assist you this evening? And do you have any reservations with us?" And you will pull the whammy on them as you tell them exactly what it is that you're looking for. They'll pause a moment. Julia Stiles, as in the actress, I don't think she stayed with us for some time now. Permit me a moment, if you would, sir. And there's a small look of confusion on their face because of what it is that you're requesting, but at the same token, it's the mesmerize taking effect on them as they start typing in. They're like, she said she's staying with us, but I believe I could give you her room number. Would you like me to give her a phone call, sir, let her know that you're coming? Or rather, would you like to speak with her?
That won't be necessary. Just her
Okay,
room number will do. I'm already expected.
sure. And he will punch in a couple of digits. Here's her room number, and he points you towards something around the third floor. So
Okay. I will. I will head there, and they did give me a key card to it.
they did not give you a key card because you are not the room owner. They
Okay.
just told you where she is.
That's fine. I'll go up there, and I will knock on the door.
You go up there, and the moment you step off the elevator, you'll see two people that seems to be in suits. It seems like the types of shirts that they're wearing white suits with black ties and black shirts. It seems like they have sunglasses on. From the looks of them, they may or may not be in their late 30s. Their bodies are kind of, I wouldn't say built like that of someone who happened to be a bouncer, but definitely built of someone who may or may not have had done some illicit work in the past. Upon taking a look at you, you'll see the gentleman take a look. Sir, you may want to go to the rooftop.
That DJ, that does sound like a more appropriate thing. Yeah, sure. Why not? I will head there. I'll just nod my head in their direction and head up there.
As you start heading back into the elevator, considering that they've seen you, you can't really see their eyes because of the shades that they are wearing, but they do step in after you. Upon you stepping in, it's kind of their posture lets you know that they put you in the back of this particular triangle with your back towards the end of the elevator as they press the button and take you up to the rooftop itself. It seems like
Okay.
what the rooftop would kind of be a little bit of a misnomer here, as much as it is that there is a loungy bar area that kind of takes hold. As the doors open, you will see, of course, the lights that are being illuminated from the room itself, but also the lights that are coming from the city and the horizon in the background. SD loading. And you will have this room set up for you.
This is nice.
In the backdrop, as you do take a look out the window, you are able to see the One World Trade Center monument in the background. It is a single spire as compared to the two that had existed before, but its design definitely being unique enough. Um, the spire at the top of the building itself that points upward acts as its own beacon, once again drawing to awe most people who are taking a look to see what post 9/11 does look like for most New Yorkers, and the new building that stands in its place as once again a symbol of the city, a symbol of freedom and such, which only helps accentuate the look. Standing at the window, you will notice the following. You'll notice your kin standing at the window, in that exact pose of sorts as she does take off her gloves. It seems like she raises a brow as she hears the elevator doors open, and more specifically, as you hear the gentleman walk out of the elevator and wait for you to walk out as well before they close ranks, ensuring that no one else kind of passes through.
Okay. Um,
The room
well,
itself seems to be devoid of anyone else at this hour.
fair enough. Um, I will I'll walk up to her, but leave that respectful distance. The two ledgers at the ready. I am assuming the note that the second not Ken Porter gave me was also for Julia Stiles.
That would be correct.
Okay. And I will wait for her to address me as I believe is proper.
She smiles at you. It's weird, if only because you don't see anyone else around offhand. Normally speaking, you would assume a bodyguard detail. It's not to say that she probably doesn't, you just can't see it. And before, the arm that she had at all times was Kadir, but you don't even see Johnny. In this case, it's really just you, her, and what you may or may not assume are guards, mortal or
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. You're kind of wondering there.
I am wondering. I also really don't want to find out right now.
She'll smile very warmly at you if such a thing could be said for someone like her. Dino, you made it.
I did. Um, the
Do you have
second
something
place
for
was a
me?
little bit. I do. A couple of things, in fact, and I'll present the ledgers.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. She'll take the ledgers and she'll place them beside her as she motions for you to take a seat on one of these couches itself.
I'll sit down with her. I'll
I
sit
hope you
down
don't
where
mind. I
she
know that we
instructs me to.
usually have this. She'll say, I know that we normally kind of have our meetings a little bit later in the month, but I figured, well, why not? Kill two birds with one stone and such. How have you been?
Um, After the offer from the sheriff, it's been well quieter than I expected. I know he's still new in the position, so I shouldn't expect things to be at a breakneck pace. But even with that, I'm staying busy.
Right. Right, about that. And you'll see her just simply raise her hand a second, and it gives you slight nervousness or a slight pause before you'll hear the clacking of heels, or rather just say shoes, coming up behind you. Before what's presented in front of you happens to be a chalice, or rather a nice little silver plate, with a glass, and it definitely has the scent of something very, very familiar to you. My apologies. I didn't want to be rude. I feel like you might be a little bit peckish considering.
Oh, thank you, and I'll of course accept it with all the grace that is expected of it. Um, and I'll of course wait for her to drink if she has a drink.
She'll have one that's being brought out to her as well, but she just merely holds on to it. And she'll just kind of sniff at the glass a second before just looking a little bit uninterested in it as much as she's interested in you.
Um, I'm not going to try to bore her with the specifics of cleaning up crime scenes and such. Um, but there is more talking about like it is difficult to keep people cleaning up these things on a regular
I
basis.
don't want to hear about that actually. That
Uh
stuff
huh.
kind of bores me, to be honest. It's one of the few things that I actually both adore and at the same time feel a little bit repulsed about. I mean, to be completely honest, one of the things that ended up happening with Mother Dearest and or Michaela Rest Her Soul, considering how foolish she may or may not have been, had been to the fact that she had obviously created you, and out of many of our quote unquote siblings that we had, most of them being failures and never meant to last long, you did. And for that reason, good for you. Not many have. We know that our dear Tabitha is still missing in action, and for the others, well, we know that they squandered what was given to them, and or the Sabbat had done quite the number to them. Once again, not saying Michaela's tactics were the best, but it produced fruit in one fashion or another. In this case, both you and I. And because you're at least giving a shit about your existence, at least trying to uphold something of a name for yourself, I care enough to hold these meetings with you, if only because I want to make sure that, well, nothing compromises us and or our name. And so I'm more concerned about, as she holds on to her drink, as she motions very slightly, what is this going on with the sheriff?
It's, well, it's something I'm wondering as well. I've been doing this for DJ. How long did we say? Like not even a full month, like 3 weeks. But I've hardly heard anything from him.
That right. Your position, though, you've been doing this since Embrace, so you've had a good couple of 20 years doing what you normally do. It just happens to be that only recently you've been chosen to work in this position.
Right. Um. uh, John has aside from directing me on some of these cleanup situations, I've not heard much from him yet. Not to say that he's not performing his duties, but he's playing his cards or holding his cards close to his chest right now.
It's interesting you should mention it that way, all things considering, his cards close to his chest. You are aware that I am Prince, yes?
Of course, Your Grace.
So you're telling me that my own sheriff is holding his cards to his chest. Interesting. So does he seem fit not to let me know what is happening within my own city? Granted, I know I have eyes and ears in the appropriate locations, and I have, well, Mr. Arturo to thank for many of the things that I do end up hearing, but my will not being exacted simply because my sheriff is holding his cards to the chest. Interesting choice of words. No, continue, please.
Um, with this, like John, so from Dino's standpoint, he likes John, but he's not going to, and he'll like stick up for him, but he's not going to like, I don't know, completely sell him down the river. DJ, can I make a roll because Dino is better in social situations than I am to
Mm-hmm.
just address her concerns that while this is a new phase for him, rest assured anything he says or does will be reported. You'll be the first to know.
So this is interesting because of the approach that you take. So there are a couple of angles that you can take. One is you could try to save your skin using etiquette and hopefully yours and John's skin regarding what it is that you said. Two is, are you trying to assure her by letting her know that you're her man to take care of any situation? Or three, are you trying to spin this in a fashion where you come out on top?
More the first one, but the angle I want to impress upon her is that we are, like she said, family of a important lineage in North America. My loyalty is to our lineage, our clan, and our city.
Interesting. In this case, then, I will allow you to make a wits and etiquette roll. The difficulty for this will be two.
All right, that's not bad. It's not bad. Uh, got 4 successes.
You're able to navigate your way out of this, and it comes out kind of like, no, no, that's not what I meant in terms of him hiding things. I'm just kind of new to this, and it ends up being that I don't think that he wants anyone to kind of figure him out just yet. It's not that he doesn't want you to figure it out. It's just he doesn't want to figure things out just yet, and I don't even know what's kind of happening here. Right? You at least give her that assurance that it's not like you observe something keenly and you found out and are throwing him under the bus, as much as it is like you just kind of misworded things and you don't want her getting the wrong impression out of it. She will
Mm-hmm.
seem a little bit more relaxed at that and actually start taking a sip of her drink as she leans back in her chair, and she goes, "You know that this is going to cause a whirlwind of shit, right? Think about it, Dino.
I
You are my kin and now a deputy. How am I going to make this look a little bit different? Or they're going to talk about it. Don't get me wrong.
I've no doubt they will. Um, what they are going to say or whatever they want, but the end of it is going to be that our family, first our sire, then you, defended this city and has always defended this city since it's been a Camarilla domain. That's not going to change. I might be a deputy now by dint of age alone. This is where I can best serve the domain, best serve the prince.
Right. So, what if you fuck up, though? And she'll lean her arms back. What am I to do with that? How am I not to take action? And I'm sure you understand that I will, if for whatever reason, John and or yourself and who's that other person once again?
Gratiano.
Something like that, something Italian. He has an interesting mark, I believe, and yet he chose quite the motley crew, not really vetted, for lack of a better term, to serve underneath him, or at least to at least perform these functions. I'm sure he has a better idea of what it is that he's going to be doing with that. But for now, give me. And she'll lean forward just a bit as she looks over in your way. Her eyes are definitely discerning, right? And it's something that you've come to both get used to, but also get annoyed by whenever she's doing this, because though she may be a sibling, she is her own person. And even more than that, she has her own ambitions and intentions. And you've seen
Mm-hmm.
this before, even before she became prince. Only you just get caught up in it now. Give me an idea of how we're going to make this work. And she'll clasp her hands. Because I know that you're good with finding things. Obviously, you've proven it. You've done, and you always do a great job of being able to retrieve things. Hell, you have the perfect job for it. In fact, one thing Michaela could do every now and then is at least pick out the good ones. Just not all the time. You just happen to be one of the good ones, Dino, but you understand how this is going to look. I need to impress upon you that this is what we're facing right now. It won't be too long. I'm pretty sure Arturo will reach out to you. I'm pretty sure that his talents at one point or another will do the same, and many of the members of the Camarilla within New York will attempt to see what happens. And I get that you want to elevate Michaela's name, but let's be real about one fucking thing. She was stupid for going to that meeting thinking that it was going to end the fashion that it did.
Mm,
You know what happened once the war was over, if even such a thing could be said. It's only recently now that a semblance of better stability is taking effect. I'm not saying it's a great thing. I'm not saying that we could do it the same way Chicago has. And by the way, that's their issue. But this is New York. And you're very well aware that this is a very huge chunk of land that we're working with here, that I'm trying to make better for it. And now a curveball has been thrown. But I'm curious to know what you think about this. Or Give me an idea how we can make this out of this. More even so, and she'll back up just a little bit more. How you're going to make it out of it.
This is certainly a curveball, and if there's one thing I've learned in this time, whenever we are hit from the side, we have to roll with it. This is certainly a odd odd sheriff and deputy structure. However, given that I am here, and as you've said, I'm good at finding things that are problems, but I'm also good at cleaning them up. That's been my entire job for decades, to clean things up to the point that no one would ever know anything happened at all once they looked at it. Now, I can't scrub or throw putty on a wall to clean up a dent if something goes happens with a deputy or a sheriff, but that doesn't mean I can't clean up other situations. I mean, they are useful. That's why they're here. They have their own talents. And because of that, people won't know how to handle them. And that gives them an edge in their positions. I'm here to watch them and ensure that if anything does happen, no one knows about it, except, of course, for you.
You'll see her smile genuinely for a moment. She's like, good, good. I'll give you this much. This decision was not made lightly. I hope you know that. And at any given moment in time, I could pull the trigger regarding your status as deputy. It's one that is definitely beneath you, but the work that you'll be doing is going to go a very long way, Dino. If anything at all, it'll help establish your name better than it currently is. There's more I want to tell you, but I'll at least leave you this. There's something happening within my city that I can't tell you outright, if only because I want my suspicions confirmed. And I need to make sure that all the players that we are dealing with are forthcoming. But you and I both know in a den full of vipers that will never be the case. It's much more trying to figure out whether or not they'll make a move. They won't right now because everything's exactly where it should be, and I've taken actions to ensure it. But in your travels, considering the most recent things that have happened, pay attention. And you're right. If you do end up seeing anything that is worthy of my attention, I would anticipate you'd at least be able to tell me, if not John or Mr. Rivera, however you see him. But outside of that, I'm sorry to be a Debbie Downer this entire evening. I don't want to be, all things considering. We have a lot to kind of go through. Anything interesting that you've encountered recently?
Um, you remember Valentine?
How could I forget?
He's been more trying to get me to get drinks with him recently. Um, it's not been a bad thing. Work taking priority, of course. I've not been able to go to every outing he's mentioned. I was supposed to meet with him tonight. Not entirely sure
Okay.
what his
And what's so odd about that?
position is in. Sorry, say that again, DJ.
No, go ahead.
I'm not entirely
She
sure
says,
what
what
his
about it?
position is. I'm not sure what his position is in the city or with the clan in at large, but well, he's one of the most outgoing members of the city that I've been coming in contact with. He might have some other. He might be one of these that we've been worried about, or at least aware of, people that will come up and see what the new deputies and sheriff are about or capable of, or it might just be he's bored and looking for entertainment. I don't have a read of him.
It's a combination of all things, to be quite honest. Valentine is a very smart person, even though people don't give him the credit for it. He has been a rake for some time, and so he's been introduced to many new kindred that do end up moving in and out of the city. And you're right, that is by his own volition. Better him than me. I hated to do that work, but to be honest, it serves a purpose. You'd be surprised to know that he's actually done quite a few things for the city itself. I'll give that to Valentine. However, he has been in the city and active a lot longer than you have. I wouldn't be surprised if he's curious once again as to why you've been chosen as deputy or why he feels that you should or shouldn't deserve the position. But that's for you to defend, and I hope you do, or at least know how to speak to him about that.
Oh, well, thank you for that background on him. Um, DJ, Dino doesn't have any other like plans or agendas for this meeting, um, but he will try to make a social like event of it with drinking with family or drinking with the head of the family in this scenario. But that's my way of saying other than that, unless you got something for me.
No, that be it. So in this case, we'll say that you met up with Valentine at one point or another, correct?
Right. I would say so once or twice, like new drinking buddy.
Wonderful. So then what we'll do is that we will call this scene complete for this evening as you and your sister, in this case, the Prince Bernard, happen to wind down the evening in regular talk, the things that kind of do make you human. It's the only weird thing that I will say happens is that does she speak as a human? There is a sisterly way that she does speak to you, but there's also a very, very interesting way that she goes about it, considering the length of time that she has had, not only as prince, but as well as someone who's far outlived what your experiences are. You're still quite not sure what it is that she's behind, especially as she just kind of sits with those ledgers in hand. But you are aware that she does bid you good night when your time is done. Those guards do allow you to leave, and you at one point will go ahead and meet up with Valentine. And for that, I will save for our downtimes, in which at one point or another may or may not come into effect during our first official session when we have everyone all down together.
Okay.
But that being the case, I think that we'd be able to close off this particular scene for now, unless you have any questions and or actions that you'd like to take prior to that.
No, I think we're good.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, folks. This was our first prelude run by Brennan for Dino, our Ventru. And stay tuned. We'll be able to go through with our other two players in the form of Bob and Mike and their respective characters, John being the sheriff for Mike, as well as Gaetano being the character for Bob. Thank you once again, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. See ya. Thank you for listening to our 25 Years of Vampire the Masquerade podcast. If you like what you heard and want to support us, please share it with others or leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.